In the very heart of the 2025 season, with Anfield buzzing with anticipation and the footballing world watching every move Liverpool make under their new and promising manager Arne Slot, one of the most revealing and perhaps most painful moments of the campaign so far unfolded at Stamford Bridge, where a 22-year-old Irishman saw a golden opportunity slip through his fingers. Conor Bradley, handed a starting place in a bold and symbolic decision by Slot, was given the chance to establish himself as Liverpool's new right-back following the iconic departure of Trent Alexander-Arnold. But football, as ever, is ruthless to those who hesitate, and Bradley, sadly, appeared more lost than inspired on that London afternoon. What should have been his great moment of affirmation turned into a true trial by fire, from which he emerged burned, substituted at half-time, and leaving behind not only the pitch, but also the temporary trust of his manager and two of English football's most respected analysts, Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher. On paper, the narrative seemed perfect. With Frimpong on the bench and Szoboszlai pushed back into midfield, Slot was clearly placing all his chips on Bradley, an unmistakable sign that he saw him as the immediate future of the position. It was the kind of faith that launches careers. But the match, as always, had a language of its own, one Bradley failed to translate fluently that Saturday. From the opening minutes, something felt off. He began reasonably well, with composed touches and a few typical modern fullback surges, but the spark faded quickly. By the 30-minute mark, a rash challenge on Marc Cucurella earned him an early yellow card, and worse still, opened the door for the lively young Alejandro Garnacho to begin exploiting his flank as if it were a private motorway. It wasn't a spectacular thrashing, but rather a quiet, almost psychological domination. Garnacho always seemed one step ahead, pressing, teasing, forcing subtle mistakes that, when adding up, created a picture of complete discomfort for the young Irishman. It was in this context that Arne Slot, known for his tactical composure and swift decisions, made a drastic move. At half-time, Bradley was replaced by Florian Wirtz. Yes, Wirtz, the German attacking midfielder who, by a twist of fate, came on to reinforce the midfield while Szoboszlai was shifted to right back, a role he had already played on other occasions. The message was crystal clear. When the risk outweighs the potential, the manager does not hesitate. And Bradley, sitting in the dressing room during the second half, must have felt the weight of every second of that 1-0 defeat, sealed by a goal from Moises Caicedo. It wasn't just another lost match, it was the loss of a rare window, perhaps the most important of his career so far. At a club like Liverpool, where competition is fierce and opportunities can be counted on one hand, wasting a vote of confidence from Slot could mean weeks, months, or even seasons waiting for another chance. And it wasn't just the fans who noticed. Gary Neville, speaking from the experience of someone who has lived the highs and lows of an elite career, was blunt on his podcast. I felt it was a disappointing day for Conor Bradley. What drew more attention, however, was how Neville contextualised the performance, not merely as a tactical or technical lapse, but as a mindset failure. Quoting an old lesson from Rio Ferdinand, "Nothing from our side," he pointed out that in recent years Liverpool have built such a solid defensive identity that the right flank is rarely exposed. Bradley, however, broke that pattern. He had a real chance today, Neville stressed in a tone both paternal and firm. Szoboszlai moving back into midfield, Frimpong on the bench, everything was set up for him to shine, but he didn't cope well with Garnacho. It wasn't anything spectacular from the Argentine, it was more the fact that Bradley seemed to be just shadowing the game, lacking presence, lacking authority. He concluded with a phrase that resonates as a mantra in modern football. When you get an opportunity in life, you've got to take it, and this one was too big to waste.
Jamie Carragher, on the other hand, offered an even sharper, almost clinical perspective in his Telegraph column. The former Liverpool defender, known for his uncompromising honesty, did not hold back. Bradley still looks like an academy graduate trying to cope with the demands of senior football 3 times a week. Harsh as it may sound, the remark hits a vital point. The leap from youth to first-team football, especially at an elite club, is not only technical, it is emotional, physical, and psychological. And Bradley, despite his evident talent in training and occasional matches in recent seasons, still appears to be in the middle of that adaptation process. The injury he suffered at the end of pre-season, which ruled him out of the first 2 games of the campaign, certainly didn't help. It not only slowed his rhythm, but also opened the door for others, such as Szoboszlai and even Frimpong, to gain ground in the fight for the starting spot. Now, more than regaining fitness, Bradley must rebuild the confidence of Slot, his teammates, and, perhaps most difficult of all, himself. But not all is lost, far from it. Liverpool.com, in a more optimistic tone, reminds readers that Bradley still has plenty of time on his side. After all, at 22, he is only at the beginning of his journey. He has already shown flashes of brilliance in previous seasons, particularly when called upon to fill emergency gaps. His versatility, energy, and tactical awareness are genuine assets, not illusions. The challenge, as with so many young players, is converting potential into consistency. And that is where Arne Slot's role becomes crucial. The Dutch coach, known for developing young talents and for his strategic patience, certainly won't discard Bradley for a single setback. But he also cannot allow sentiment to cloud tactical decisions. Liverpool are in rebuild mode, and every position, every minute on the pitch is a piece of a much larger puzzle. Slot needs players who not only possess ability, but can perform under pressure against elite opposition in hostile stadiums. What makes this story even more fascinating is the symbolism it carries. At a club where legends like Alexander-Arnold have redefined the right-back role, turning it into a genuine attacking engine, the shadow is far too long to ignore. Bradley is not just competing for a shirt, he is trying to write his own chapter in a story already filled with heroes. And as Neville rightly said, this was Conor Bradley's big day. It was his chance to tell the world, "I'm ready, I'm the next one." But football, in its rawest form, replied with a firm, "Not yet." That doesn't mean he won't get there. Many giants of the sport stumbled before they soared. What matters now is how Bradley responds to this setback. Will he return stronger, more focused, more mature? Or will he lose himself in the pressure of trying to prove something that ultimately only time and relentless work can confirm? Meanwhile, Liverpool supporters watch with a blend of frustration and hope. Frustration because they long to see their team unbeatable, cohesive and dominant, especially under a new manager promising a more vertical, intense and collective style of football. Hope because they know the club boasts a remarkable history of turning young prospects into icons. And Bradley, with his shy smile and distinct Irish accent, still has everything it takes to join that gallery. But the path, as always, will be steep. Every training session, every press conference, every minute on the pitch will be a new chance at redemption. And perhaps in a few months' time, we may look back on this match against Chelsea not as the end of an opportunity, but as the beginning of an epic redemption arc.
Arne Slot, for his part, already shows the firm hand of a leader. He did not hesitate to make the substitution, even if it meant publicly admitting that his initial gamble had not paid off. That shows maturity, courage, and above all, a collective focus. In a sport where egos often overshadow results, Slot's stance is refreshing. He is not there to please anyone, he is there to win. And to win, he needs players who are up to the challenge, not only in skill, but in attitude. Bradley, for now, fell short. But football is a constant cycle of setbacks and resurgences. And if there is one thing Liverpool teaches, it is that true champions are not those who never fall, but those who learn to rise faster than they stumble. Therefore, while the world speculates about the future of Liverpool's right-back position, one thing is certain. Conor Bradley still has much to show. Perhaps it wasn't his day at Stamford Bridge, but Anfield Road still has room for unlikely heroes. After all, it was there that Steven Gerrard became a legend, that Mohamed Salah wrote immortal chapters, and that Trent Alexander-Arnold redefined what it means to be a fullback.
Now, it is up to Bradley to decide whether he merely wants to occupy a place in the squad or to carve his own name into history. And, as any Kop supporter would say, time will tell. But one thing is undeniable. Curiosity is very much in the air.